Laughter rang out, loud and sharp, slicing through the warm atmosphere of the party like a thin blade, and the person being turned into the joke stood right in the middle of the room, smiling as if nothing had touched him. On the rooftop of an upscale restaurant in Austin, the night breeze drifted through strands of floating golden lights. The city below glittered, traffic stretching into the distance like shooting stars that never burned out. Wine swirled in glasses, soft background music wove between polite conversations. Everything was perfect, elegant enough to make people want photos, intimate enough for everyone to pretend they were close. Rachel Turner stood in a circle of colleagues, her red dress fitted, her hair falling perfectly over her shoulders. She leaned toward a director who listened closely, one hand holding a wine glass, the other gesturing lightly as if she were telling an incredibly entertaining story. A few steps away stood Michael Turner, 40 years old, her husband, holding a glass of water, a polite smile fixed on his lips. She said he once tried to fix the dishwasher with a butter knife and ended up short-circuiting half the kitchen. The group burst into laughter. Michael laughed too, and no one noticed his fingers tightening until his knuckles went white around the glass. She continued, tilting her head with practiced charm, saying sometimes she felt like she was raising 2 children instead of 1. She glanced toward Michael. A man nudged his shoulder and said he would not survive without his wife. Michael nodded, his expression calm, but inside something went quiet. Not because he was insulted, but because he realized this was no longer a joke. This was how she truly saw him. Beside him, Lily, 8 years old, their daughter, gripped the straw in her soda. She looked at her mother, then at her father. She did not laugh. She was trying to understand why people laughed when talking about her dad like that. She whispered that Daddy fixed the sink. Michael bent down, his voice light as air, and said yes, he did. She asked why they were laughing. He did not answer right away. He looked around the table at expensive suits, gleaming watches, social nods. None of them knew that the man being treated like a joke had designed the automated system for a new factory worth tens of millions of dollars. None of them knew he had turned down a promotion to technical director the previous year so he could take his daughter to school every morning. Rachel lifted her glass as if closing the story and said someone had to stay home to keep everything from falling apart while she went out to make money. Laughter rose again. Michael looked at his wife, then at his daughter. A very quiet sadness moved through his heart. Not the sadness of being looked down on, but the sadness of someone who had just realized he had been silent for too long. Lily slipped her small warm hand into his under the table. Michael squeezed back. Outside, the city still shone. Inside him, a door closed very softly. The message arrived when the house was asleep, and a single line cold as metal made the wide kitchen suddenly feel smaller. Do not wait up. Michael stood still by the dining table, the phone screen glowing in his hand. Yellow light spilled across the wooden surface, highlighting small scratches he had once meant to fix and forgotten. In the living room, the wall clock ticked steadily, a sound usually unnoticed, now loud like the heartbeat of an empty house. Rachel had left nearly an hour earlier, saying an out-of-state client needed to see a property urgently. Her voice had been light, professional, as if discussing the weather. She changed into another dress, sprayed a perfume Michael did not recognize, then brushed a kiss past his cheek. Her lips did not truly touch his skin, only the air beside it. Lily was asleep, hugging a worn, stuffed rabbit, breathing evenly. Before closing her eyes, she had asked if her mother would be home before she woke up. Rachel had answered vaguely, eyes still on her phone. Michael looked at the words, "Do not wait up again." No heart, no love you, just a polite command. He typed back asking if everything was okay. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. A silence stretched tight like a wire. She replied that everything was fine, and he should sleep. Michael set the phone down but did not leave the table. He sat there, hands clasped, staring at the dark window reflecting his own image. A man seen as slow, clumsy, living off his wife. That was what they thought. Rachel thought it too. But in the work email he had sent that afternoon, his name was on the first line of the automation project for a new factory worth tens of millions. In the family insurance policy, he was the only one listed. In Lily's savings account, most of the money came from quiet investments he had made for years. He had never talked about those things, not because they did not exist, but because he did not need applause. The night grew deeper. 11 passed, then near midnight. The house was so quiet he could hear the refrigerator cycling on and off. Michael thought about the dinner party, the laughter, the way Lily had held his hand under the table. He wondered how much she had heard and understood. A child does not need to know the truth to feel disrespect. He stood, checked the front door was locked, the windows secured, familiar steady actions like a night watchman no one sees. When he returned to the table, the phone lay there, silent and cold. He did not know that in a few hours that same phone would ring and tear open their quiet night, and everything he had tried to hold together for his family would be tested in a way he had never imagined. But for now, he just sat there alone in the kitchen light, and for the first time admitted to himself that some things in this marriage had slipped from his hands long ago. The phone vibrated in the dark, and the name on the screen made Michael's blood seem to freeze. Lily was calling at 2 a.m. He answered immediately, his voice low but shaking underneath. He said, "Dad is here. What is wrong?" On the other end was fast breathing, mixed with a dull thudding sound like music through walls. She said Mommy told her to wait in the car but had been gone too long and she was scared. Michael was already on his feet before she finished. The chair tipped back into the table. He grabbed his keys, heart pounding so hard his ears rang. He asked where she was and told her to look around for signs. She said there were purple lights and lots of people standing in line talking loudly. His throat went dry. He asked if the doors were locked. She said yes. He told her she did well, to listen carefully, not open the door for anyone. He was coming right away. He ran to the car, opened the family location app with one hand while starting the engine with the other. A small blue dot appeared in the city center, in a district he had only ever driven past during the day and never stopped. Bars, clubs, neon lights that never went dark. Lily curled up in the back seat, hugging the phone like a lifeline. She did not understand why her mother had said just a moment. And now it was pitch dark, and the music shook the windows. She did not know what exactly to fear, only that she should not be here alone. Rachel, a few steps away, was laughing under purple-pink lights, trying to forget she had left her daughter in the car longer than planned. In her mind, everything was temporary, just one night. She did not think about consequences, did not think about the look in her child's eyes in the rearview mirror. Michael's car sped through empty streets. The man everyone thought slow and clumsy was now calm in a way that was almost frightening. He did not panic. He calculated the fastest route. He remembered every turn. The instinct to protect his child guided him more clearly than any navigation system. He said again into the phone that Dad was coming. On the other end, Lily stopped crying a little and said she believed him. Music pounded against Michael's chest like invisible blows when he stepped out of the car, purple-pink light washing over his face and making everything look distorted, unreal. Among the long line of laughing strangers, his daughter sat alone in a locked car. He saw Lily through the windshield before she saw him, her small face pressed to the glass, eyes red, hands clutching the phone like the only thing keeping her tied to a safe world. When he opened the door, she threw herself into his arms so hard he had to step back to keep balance. She sobbed that she thought he would not come. He said he was here now, his voice low and steady, his large hand covering her back as if he could block out the whole noisy street. The air smelled of smoke, beer, cheap perfume. Strangers laughed near them, unaware that only steps away was the fear of a child. The club door opened. Rachel stepped down, heels clicking on concrete. She was smiling, head tilted toward a younger man beside her, fitted jacket, confident eyes of someone who thought he belonged there. His hand still rested lightly on her back. Rachel saw Michael. Her smile vanished. What appeared on her face was not fear but irritation. She asked what he was doing there, her voice low but sharp like glass. Michael did not answer immediately. He only held Lily tighter, feeling her heart racing against his chest. He said she had left their daughter alone in a car outside at 2 a.m, each word falling heavy and even. Rachel glanced at the man beside her as if afraid he would hear something that made her lose face. She said she had only gone inside for a moment. Lily looked up, voice small and shaking, and said she called Mommy, but Mommy did not answer. Rachel froze for a fraction of a second, then looked away. In her mind, it was just a small mistake, a night that needed saving, an opportunity not to miss. She did not see her daughter's eyes. She only saw the other man's eyes growing colder. She told Michael not to make such a big deal. Michael looked at the line of people, the flashing lights, his daughter trembling in his arms. The man everyone thought weak and dependent stood straight, shoulders broad, eyes calm in a way that was almost frightening. He told her to get in the car, not shouting, not threatening, just an unmistakable command. Rachel opened her mouth to say something else, then looked into his eyes. For the first time in years, she did not see the man who forced a smile or always gave in. She saw a father. She walked silently toward the car. Morning sunlight poured through the curtains, gentle and innocent, as if the night before had never existed. But in the kitchen the air felt heavy, like a weight on everyone's chest. Lily sat close to Michael, her feet not touching the floor, swinging slightly but without her usual cheer. She held a spoon over her cereal without eating, eyes occasionally glancing toward the stairs. Rachel came down near noon, sunglasses still on though there was no sun inside. She poured coffee with firm movements, as if doing everything normally would make everything else shrink away. She told Lily not to look at her like that, as if she had done something terrible. Lily lowered her gaze to the bowl. Michael saw the moment clearly, a child shrinking herself to avoid making an adult uncomfortable. His heart tightened, slow and painful. He said she had left their daughter alone in the middle of the night, outside a place full of strangers. Rachel set the coffee cup down hard. She said she had already explained it was only a few minutes. She lost track of time. He answered it was nearly 2 hours. She looked at him, irritation and defense in her eyes, asked if he was treating her like a criminal. He did not reply immediately. He looked at Lily, who was trying to eat, small spoonfuls, as if finishing quickly would end the tension sooner. He told Lily gently to go upstairs and get her backpack. She nodded, slid off the chair, went up the stairs with small, quick steps. When the door upstairs closed, Michael turned back to Rachel and asked who the man was. She exhaled sharply through her nose and said a friend. He asked what kind of friend went with her into a club at 2 a.m. She told him not to start interrogating her. He said he was not interrogating. He was trying to understand why his daughter had to sit crying in a car. The sentence fell between them like a rock. Rachel turned away, looking out at the green lawn under the sun, peaceful to the point of being fake. Michael stood there in silence, and in that silence a decision began to form, not loud, not explosive, but certain, like steel. He asked no more questions, and that silence was what truly began to change everything. When a man stops arguing, not because he has lost, but because he has decided to act, the direction has already shifted. In the days that followed, everything looked normal on the surface. Rachel went to work with a confident smile, posted photos of newly sold houses on social media, talked on the phone for hours in the bedroom with the door closed. To outsiders, they were still a successful couple in a quiet suburb, with a well-behaved daughter and a neatly cut lawn every weekend. Only Michael knew the house was cracking from the inside. He did not track her like a jealous madman. He did what he had always been good at, the things no one noticed because they were not loud. He observed, remembered, organized information the way he once optimized a complex production system. The shared phone bill came on the weekend. Michael opened the detailed call file, eyes moving over numbers. One number repeated regularly after 11 at night. Some calls lasted nearly an hour. Dense strings of messages appeared on nights Rachel said she was tired and went to bed early. He did not frown, just saved a copy. That night, when Rachel said she needed to stop by the office to sign papers, the front door camera recorded her car leaving the garage near midnight. Michael sat in his study, the computer screen casting a pale blue light over his face. He replayed the footage, slowed it down, noted the time. No anger, no shaking, just precision. In the shared credit card account, he saw 2 charges at a small hotel downtown, not a big chain, and the kind of place people choose for discretion, not luxury. Michael saved the electronic receipts. Each piece of evidence was like a small puzzle piece. Alone, they meant little, but together, they told a very clear story. In the evenings, he still helped Lily with homework, still asked how school was, still smiled when she told him about her teacher dropping a stack of papers. He did not let adult darkness spill into his daughter's small world. But when Lily slept, Michael sat alone at the kitchen table, the folder growing thicker each day under the light. He remembered the fear in her eyes in the car that night, the sobs she tried to swallow so she would not bother anyone. He understood this was no longer a story of betrayal between 2 adults. This was about a child's safety. The appointment with the lawyer was set on an afternoon he worked from home. The office was small and quiet, smelled of paper and coffee. The woman across from him listened, occasionally taking notes. He told her about that night, the time, the location, Lily's condition. She looked up and said if what he said was formally recorded, the court would see it as child endangerment. Michael nodded. He did not smile, did not look pleased, just asked what the next step was. When he stepped out of the building, late afternoon sun warmed the street, calm and gentle. The man everyone thought slow and dependent had just taken the first step in a plan he had told no one about, not for revenge, but for protection. Children's music played slightly off-beat in the elementary school hall, and among the quickly arranged plastic chairs, a message flashed on a phone screen that said what no one there was ready to hear. Last night was perfect. Michael saw the line faintly reflected in the window behind Rachel, though she turned the screen face down very quickly. One brief moment, but enough. The hall was hot, smelling of old wood and colored paper. Parents fanned themselves, whispered, laughed softly. On stage, children in paper hats and handmade costumes prepared for the spring show, an innocent world full of cute mistakes and unconditional applause. Michael sat in the second row, early as always. He had saved seats in the middle so Lily could see him right away. When Rachel arrived late, her heels echoing on the wooden floor, a few parents turned to look. She wore a fitted dress, makeup carefully done, looking more like she was attending a party than her daughter's performance. She smiled socially and sat beside him. Her phone vibrated constantly in her bag. She pulled it out, glanced quickly, then turned it face down on her thigh. But the light had already reflected on the glass. Last night was perfect. Michael did not turn to her. He looked at the stage where Lily peeked from behind the curtain, eyes searching the crowd. Rachel thought no one had seen. In her mind, everything could still be separated. Family, school, the image of a successful mother on one side, the nights she gave herself permission to live differently on the other. She believed she was skilled enough to keep those worlds from colliding. She did not know they had just collided hard. When the show began, Lily walked out wearing a crooked flower hat. She scanned the room. Her eyes landed on Michael first. Her face lit up, her shoulders relaxed. Then she looked at Rachel. The smile remained, but smaller, more fragile. After the performance, Lily ran down and straight into her father's arms. Michael lifted her and spun gently like always. She laughed, clear and bright among the murmur of adults. Rachel opened her arms. Lily stepped to hug her mother, but there was a tiny pause before she did. A pause just enough for Michael to feel, enough for a small, invisible distance to begin forming. Rachel, busy maintaining a perfect image in front of other parents, did not realize she was slowly losing the most important thing right before her eyes. The folder set down on the kitchen table made a very small sound, but enough for Rachel to look up, and in that moment she did not yet know her marriage had just been turned to its final page. No shouting, no immediate tears, just the truth laid out neatly on the wood. Lily was asleep. The house was quiet enough to hear the dishwasher humming. Rachel sat at the table, phone in hand, scrolling as if the outside world were still smooth and under her control. Michael pulled out a chair and sat across from her. He slid the folder toward her and told her to look. She exhaled lightly, annoyed, asked what it was now. She opened the cover, her eyes still unfocused. Then she froze. Copies of hotel receipts, call logs with the same number repeating after 11 at night, photos from the front door camera showing her car leaving at midnight many times, printed messages she thought were gone. Her face drained of color. She asked if he had gone through her phone. Michael looked straight at her and said she had left their daughter alone in a car at night, and he started looking into things from there. His voice was not loud, not shaking. That calmness unsettled Rachel more. She flipped through pages quickly as if speed could blur the meaning. She said he was just imagining things. Michael pulled out the last sheet and placed it on top. A copy of the incident report filed that same night. Time, location, Lily's condition clearly recorded. Rachel stared at the paper and asked if he had reported to the police. He answered he had reported an incident involving his daughter. The air in the kitchen thickened. Rachel stood up abruptly, chair scraping the floor. She asked if he was crazy, if he wanted to destroy the family. Michael stood too, but did not move closer. He kept a distance like guarding the last boundary of respect. He said the family had cracked long before he opened that folder. She shook her head, eyes red with anger more than regret, said he could not demand a divorce over one mistake. Michael looked at her for a long time. In his eyes, there was no longer the man forcing smiles at the rooftop party, no longer the one silently enduring jokes, only a father who had made a decision. He said he had already filed. The words fell. Final. Rachel looked as if someone had slapped her. In her mind, he had always been the one who stayed, who gave in, who feared change. She had never thought he would be the one to step away first. Michael turned toward the sink and poured himself a glass of water, movements slow and steady. He was not trying to hurt her. He was setting a boundary that should have existed long ago. For the first time, Rachel understood that the man she thought she could overlook was actually the one deciding what would remain after tonight. There was no dramatic gavel echoing, no one crying out in the courtroom, but when the judge read the decision, Rachel's life changed direction in a few short sentences. Temporary custody went to Michael. The courtroom was small, lit by cold white lights, wooden benches hard. No audience, no cinematic drama, just documents, statements, and truth spoken in the steady voice of a lawyer. Michael sat straight, hands on his knees, wearing an old suit, not flashy. Outsiders might think he was just an ordinary man, a little tired, a little tense. Rachel sat opposite, hair tied back, makeup lighter than usual. She kept clenching her fingers, occasionally glancing at her lawyer as if waiting for a miracle. Michael's lawyer described that night: the car's location, how long Lily was alone, how the child had to call her father in fear. Each detail placed like a stone, stacking into a wall hard to deny. Rachel listened, heart racing. In her mind, it had been one bad decision on one evening. She'd never imagined it would lead here, to this cold room where her ability to be a mother was measured by files and testimony. The judge asked Michael why he had not confronted or fought earlier. He answered simply that he wanted to protect his daughter and did not want to make things worse for her. His voice was not loud, but steady, not blaming, not bitter, and that made the room fall quiet. Rachel looked at him then, and for the first time saw clearly what she had missed for years. The man she once thought slow and dependent had actually been the one quietly keeping everything running, from bills to insurance to Lily's savings fund. He had never boasted, he had just done it. The final decision was read. Rachel would have supervised a visitation at first and had to attend parenting classes. Conditions were clear, without emotion. She nodded, lips pressed tight. No more arguing, no more excuses. Outside the courthouse, noon sun flooded the street. People walked by, laughing as if nothing had changed. But for Rachel, the world had shifted off its familiar axis. The man who had always walked behind her was now walking ahead, holding their daughter's hand. Michael bent down and adjusted Lily's backpack. She looked at him, eyes less anxious than before, as if she sensed something adults take much longer to understand. She asked if they were going home. He said yes, home. Not big or small, not whose name was on it, but the place where if she called out, someone would answer. For the first time in months, Michael felt he was not just existing in that house. He was truly keeping it standing. The house felt strangely quiet, and that quiet had once been what Michael feared most. Now it held his heart in the right place. Evening settled slowly through the kitchen window. Yellow light spread across the table where Lily sat doing math homework. Tongue pressed lightly to her lip while working through a difficult division problem. Her pencil tapped softly on the paper, a steady, harmless sound. Michael stood by the sink, sleeves rolled up, warm water running over dishes. Everything was so simple it was almost ordinary, but these ordinary things had once been pushed to the bottom of his marriage. Lily called out without looking up and asked if he would be mad if she did not understand the problem. Michael turned off the tap, dried his hands, walked over and bent beside her to look at the messy numbers. He said he would never be mad because she needed help. She looked up at him, eyes clear like that night, but without fear. In a small apartment a few miles away, Rachel sat alone on a sofa, phone face down on the table, screen silent. The man who once sent her sweet messages had not replied to any of her texts for weeks. The quiet in her room was different from the quiet of the old house. Here, it was not gentle, it was cold. Rachel stared into space, remembering the kitchen where Lily used to do homework, where Michael always stood washing dishes, the place she once thought she was trapped. Now she understood what she called trapped had actually been stability. The man she thought weak had been the silent pillar of the family. In the kitchen, Michael pulled out a chair and sat beside Lily, patiently explaining each step. She leaned lightly against his arm, a natural gesture without hesitation. She asked quietly, as if stating something obvious, if she called, he would come, right? Michael looked at her, his heart softening. He said always. The answer was short, not decorated with promises, but heavy like an oath. Outside, night wind moved through the trees. No pounding music, no flashing neon lights, just a house with its kitchen light on, where a father sat beside his daughter solving an elementary math problem as if it were the most important thing in the world. And right now, It truly was. This story could end here in a peace that makes no noise. But if you have ever seen a child look around in fear and search for only one face, you understand why small things like these carry such weight. If this story touched you, share your thoughts. And if you believe real love is measured by who shows up when it matters most, stay with us for the next stories.